Welcome to this podcast from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading, Massachusetts. I'm Reverend Tim Kutzmark, the minister of this regional church serving communities north of Boston. We are an intentionally inclusive congregation, welcoming people of all ages, beliefs, religious backgrounds, cultural origins, differing abilities, and sexual orientations. If you are in the area, know that you are invited to join us for Sunday services. For more information on our church or on Unitarian Universalism, please visit our website at www.uureading.org. That's www.uureading.org. And now, please enjoy this podcast of the sermon.
Do you think of yourself as brave? Or do you identify more with the cowardly lion, wishing you had courage? Most of us don't give ourselves credit for being brave. We downplay the things we do or the risks we've taken as if they're no big deal. And when we do that, we do ourselves a disservice. We fail to see one of our real strengths, our courage. Not heroic courage, but daily courage. The daily courage it takes to live a life. The more we can own our courage, the more bravely we will live. That's a good thing for this world that so needs us to stand up for what we believe, to live by our Unitarian Universalist principles, to be the best person we can be. I've been asking around, and people don't like to talk about their courage. Not me, they say. I'm not courageous, but I can show you someone who is. We can think of many stories about people whose courage we admire, but we rarely star in them. Maybe talking about a time we were brave brings up hard circumstances, memories of why we had to be brave. Or maybe we're just accustomed to seeing ourselves as cautious and fearful and vulnerable and not as brave. How many of us wake up in the wee hours worried and anxious? How many of us want to make a change in our lives, but we're held back by caution? Some of us have been seized by fear after a big disappointment, a tough diagnosis, a betrayal. The 14th century Persian poet Hafiz nailed the reality of living with fear. Fear, he wrote, is the cheapest room in the house. I would like to see you living in better conditions. When have you let fear get in your way? And what did it take to step beyond it into courage? Fear is the cheapest room in the house. I'd like to see you living in better conditions. How to be more courageous, how to be brave with our dreams, bold in our relationships, daring in our work. If only we met our daily fears with daily courage. But you know, we do more than we realize. The fact is that daily living takes daily courage. You are brave, braver than you believe. A tired mom and dad fall into bed after a full, high-stress Saturday with their young kids. They're exhausted. The baby cried all day long. Turned out to be an ear infection. And after throwing a temper tantrum about not wanting to get dressed, the 2-year-old got into the red nail polish. The mom had abandoned it on the bathroom counter when mid-pedicure the neighbor called, needing to borrow a quick cup of milk. The dad took a call from work and had to go into the office for 3 hours. No one got to the store, so dinner really didn't happen. And there was red nail polish everywhere. By bedtime, Both parents were worn down and sniping at each other. They each felt overburdened and underappreciated for all they were doing. Neither felt like a model parent. Neither felt like a model spouse. But the next morning, neither of them could remember what they'd been so annoyed about the night before. Rested and ready for what the day would bring, they began again, fresh. That's courage. The readiness to keep going and not only go through the known routines of the day, which can be challenging enough, but take on the day's surprises as well. It takes more than putting one foot in front of the other to live into each day. It takes courage. Sometimes the day goes great, other times it's not so pretty. Either way, daily life asks a lot of us. And we do it, don't we? Some people say they used to be courageous, but no longer are. Is that true for you? Do we lose our ability to take risks over time? Or does it seem unseemly and immodest to think of ourselves as brave? Maybe we just don't see our own courage. Courage is a fleeting thing. It rises up when we need it, helps us through a challenge, and afterward, we hardly know it had been there. As often as not, other people point out our daily courage. We might brush it off when they say to us, "Wow, that was brave." But those words feel pretty good. Like when you were a kid and someone said, "I'm proud of you." Someone who saw something true about us that we hadn't dared to see ourselves. When someone lifts up our courage, we might think, that was hard. I was brave. Maybe I am brave. Seeing that is empowering because it helps us be brave again. Courage is like a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it becomes. This time last year, my home church organized a mission trip to Appalachia. Our group worked on several improvement projects, among them a small church, which we scraped and painted. One woman, an elder of the church, tells stories about the resilience of the people she met there. She also tells one about her own courage. After getting home, she'd received a letter from the minister. He'd mentioned how she'd help operate the power washer at the church painting project. "Thank you," he wrote, "for taking the risk to come." Not seeing herself as a risk taker, she wondered what he meant by that. Yet something there resonated. The trip had felt risky right from the start. She hadn't known most of the participants and had no practical skills to offer. They all seemed young and in great shape. How would she keep up with them? How could she be useful? And that power washer, she hadn't thought of it in a long time. Now she remembered that sunny day. She remembered as she walked past the minister on her way to the spot she'd been scraping. And he had turned and held out the power washer hose. It roared, water exploding from the nozzle. "Want to do this?" he said to her. Heck no! That was the last thing she wanted to do. A scraper was one thing, but a power washer? All that force, paint chips flying, that loud motor? Not to mention that she always thought that mixing water and electricity was a no-no. Until reading his letter, she had forgotten all this. Forgotten she'd agreed to try the power washer, and that he'd shown her how to crank up the pressure from a gentle shower to blistering machine gun strength. What an experience it turned out to be. Blasting old paint off that church all afternoon felt amazing to her. Empowering even. She was quite a picture, soaked to the bone, morphed from a nice old church lady into a mean power washing machine. She'd forgotten about that exhilaration of accomplishment, too, until the minister lifted up that tiny bit of courage. Thank you for taking the risk. She was grateful for his words. They affirmed her initial vulnerability, as well as her bravery in overcoming a challenge. Not a heroic challenge, just a little thing. But that bit of courage was real. She couldn't dispute it or dismiss it, saying, "Well, that was nothing." She was surprised how good it felt to have it acknowledged. I did it, she thought. We can underrate our simple daily courage. Courage we call upon all the time without thinking about it. Thankfully, others can see it. We're courageous every time we take a risk and do something new and uncomfortable. We're courageous every time something hits our buttons and we have to face the music. We're courageous every time we keep going, one foot in front of the other, in face of trials and challenges and losses. We're courageous every time we dare to leave our safe cocoons, put ourselves out there. We're courageous every time we take a stand, especially when we go against the flow. We're courageous when we face our fears, when we step forward into the unknown. We're courageous when we do the best we can, when everyone around us seems to be unraveling, or when life begins to feel unmanageable. We're also courageous when we realize when we can't hold it together. When the depression, the loneliness is so bad that we can't even get out of bed, and we honor that. We're courageous every day. So, how can we get in touch with our own courage? How can we flex that muscle? How can we strengthen it? Most of us identify more with our vulnerabilities than our triumphs, so getting in touch with courage doesn't come easy. The people close to us, though, can help. If you dare, and this takes courage, ask someone who knows you about a time they saw your courage. You may be surprised. You're braver than you think. Here's another idea. Take the time to tell someone a moment that you saw their courage. They'll deny it. We do that. But when someone's bravery touches you, it's as real as can be. It inspires us. It's a gift to see someone living bravely, and a gift when we lift it up for them. Can you see your courage? Can you see how bravely you live? I can. Over these last 2 years, and as I prepare to end this internship in 2 weeks, I want to tell you what I've seen here. I want to lift up your courage, the daily courage of the people of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading. You are braver than you believe. I've seen your courage as you parent your beautiful children. Not always easy. I've seen your courage as you've cared for aging parents and spouses. Challenging. I've seen your courage as you've cried, as you've coped with troubles at home, and as you've said yes to life and come back in strength and in beauty. I've seen your courage when, after turning away in hurt and frustration, you have come back again in love. I've seen your courage as teachers learning and growing, sitting in a circle with children on bright flowered cushions. I've seen your courage as coming-of-age mentors, giving and giving, even when out of town, saying yes to our youth with unwavering support. I've seen your courage as volunteers, with a lot on your plate already. I've seen you roll up your sleeves and pour your hearts and souls to the work of this church as you give up your late evenings to walk your talk and help this be the best church it can be. I've seen your courage as you faced health challenges and continued to love and give under difficult circumstances. You are an inspiration. I've seen your courage when you've lived with loss, courage with dignity that awes me. I've seen your courage as you've said yes to new careers, and you've started again, following your heart and inspiring us all. I've seen the courage of you who've made time in your lives to say yes to working in the church office during our administrator Rosemary's absence due to lengthy illness. I've seen your courage and been inspired as you've said yes to making a difference, working to increase the minimum wage, to chop down trees, to build a community, reaching out to people who do not have homes, bravely looking at your own privilege. I've seen your courage as you said yes to new things, new music, the choir singing a cappella, new folks making coffee, helping longtime member Bill Grace in the kitchen Sunday mornings. I've seen your courage the way you welcome visitors into this church. And I've seen your courage as you've said yes to coming through the door for the first time, as we all did. As you've said yes to taking UU Basics and becoming part of this wonderful faith community. These things you do are not putting one foot in front of the other. They're not doing what just has to be done. They are acts of amazing courage, daily courage. And so, inspired and grateful, I say goodbye, courageous ones. Thank you for taking the risk to live bravely. Own your daily courage. Lift up each other's courage. You are making the world a better place. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.